Hey, it's Don. We've got another video for you today. I've got a repair job we're going to show you here at the end of this too. It's going to be a multi-part thing all today though. I just had to film it in many different time frames just because you got to glue it and dry and touch up color and then let that dry and then spray and things like that. So anyway, it was a little bit of a time-consuming thing to video it, but we've got it coming up here at the end. Question-wise, most of the questions are related to specifics lately, so I don't have a lot of questions. So when I don't have questions, I'm just going to put out some more content in Bolo or something else here. I do have a couple questions that we're going to touch on here that should help you a little bit in finding places and things to shop at, to buy things. I've lived all over the country. I was born in Ohio. My wife was born in Mississippi, one of my kids was born in Florida, and another one of my kids was born in Virginia. So we've been to all those states. I've worked in Denver, I've worked in California, I've worked in Boston, I've worked in Dallas. I've been all over the place. I've worked in Georgia, Ohio, Michigan. So I've worked in a lot of different places. I've been from one coast to the other coast, and I've sourced in every one of those places. Some are better than others. Some are just the bomb. California was good. The Boston area with Saugus and Salem area was great. You have Brimfields up there. So down in Florida, there was Webster's and some other places we used to source at as well religiously. I know every town doesn't have a ton of garage sales. So, every area you're in may not have a ton of stuff to source. But if you look outside the box, there'll be other things. It doesn't have to be vintage. It doesn't have to be specifically clothing. It could be wholesale. It could be farming equipment. It could be anything from where you're at. Whatever industry is in your area, you're going to find stuff from that industry. And I had a question here, and I'm not going to call anybody out or anything like that. We'll say West Virginia, we're trying to find a source. And I just picked some small town in West Virginia. I've been in West Virginia once or twice going through Smokies and doing some travels and things. I don't know anything about West Virginia. I literally sat there and looked up and found some locations. Let's pop over to the screen actually right now. And we're just going to talk about trying to find places in your local area. So let's pop over there. So here we are. I picked one town, Hinton, West Virginia. It had less than 3,000. I think it had like 2,484 people in the town. Very small town. My town where we live in is, maybe 400,000 for the whole encompassing area. So I'm not even in a huge town compared to other towns. So, Hinton's very small. It's out in the middle of nowhere from the way it looks. And I just did some random searches here just to see what I could find. Because, if you're new to a town, you're going to have to do something to figure it out. I don't leave the house when I first look around. I look and find what I can find online. And if you're looking for something specific, like a consignment shop, I did Hinton, West Virginia consignment shops. And I actually found quite a few here for this size of a town. There's actually some in the town. Now, they're not all in the town, but there is L&M's Classy Consignment. There's Hinton Gun and Pawn. Pawn shops are usually good. I do pawn shops. Around here, I don't really need to as much, but when I didn't have the sources and the avenues, I hit up pawn shops constantly. I even worked out deals with pawn shops where they would hold things for me left and right, or call me when they get big lots of things and that were direct purchases, and I'd usually give them close to what they wanted in a bulk sum I could get a good deal. So it just depends on what you're looking for, what you're trying to find. You don't have one specific area. Any of these places we're going to show you could be good places to source. So again, I've just picked some. There's quite a few here, reseller, secondhand. Now, and I also found the zip code for the town, and I literally looked up the stuff within that area. So like in Hinton here, within 30 minutes or 30 miles or so of the town, there's at least 7 just consignment stores. Again, I just picked some random city. It could be any town that you're looking for. Do this. Make yourself the list of this. Check out these consignment stores. Ask them when they get stuff in. Ask them if they'd hold stuff. Ask them if they get this. Maybe they don't purchase stuff because they have no buyers until you've asked. So, take that in consideration. Here's another consignment store, like New Consignment Shop. And they have different things. I see clothing in the background, little knickknacks and things too. It looks like an older building. It's a good opportunity here. Again, this is in Hinton, this small little town. So, it's got phone numbers and the whole works. You can find out when they're open. You can give them a call. You can see what else is around there too. And I didn't even look up discount stores. You might have like a Dirt Cheap or some other place like that in the area. You might have a wholesale business that you could purchase stuff from. It doesn't have to be different items. You could find a wholesale deal locally for a lantern or a light or something. And when you list it, you sell one, then you go buy it. I mean, there's so many other options you can do. You don't have to be tied down to anything specific. Wholesale is just fine. And just coming through here, here's another resale shops, Grandma's House. Here's one in Hinton, used and new furniture. There's other stuff I can see in the window. Here's some other places within a driving distance of there. So again, you're not going to find everything in that one specific town. But if you don't mind driving, I have a 55-mile limit usually what I do if I'm just randomly going out and stuff. I'll do a 55-mile search radius, and then I'll just search around in there. Usually I find quite a few things, usually a dozen or so, anywhere I go. When we're out of town or something, if I've flown in somewhere or traveled, I'll see what's in with, say, 20 minutes from there, or 30 or 40 minutes on my days off, or when I'm just piddling around or we're traveling, I'll be able to hit stuff up. We hit stuff up on the way to places when we're just traveling. Even if we're not going to source, if I see something, I stop. Here's 7 or 8 more within that same little area, literally within a, say, 30 or 40-minute drive time. And that's literally nothing wrong with driving that. I used to drive to work every day, and it used to take me 40 minutes with traffic one way. So I'm not worried about the drive if that's what it takes. You got to be dedicated. You got to hit the road. Sometimes you may be driving a lot just to find stuff and to figure out which are good places and which are not. And as I've said before, when you're going to all these places, print them all off, copy these, put it on an Excel sheet or put them on a Word document, and write down notes on which ones were good. You're going to find out that maybe half of these are just not worth your time. There's 4 or 5 stores that may be the ones that you only need to go to because you find a ton of stuff there. So this is the routine I did when I came and moved to where I'm at right now. I did exactly what I'm showing you here. Again, there's no way to guarantee that wherever you live, there's going to be a ton of stuff. This is a small amount of stuff. If I did this search here in my local area, there's a ton of stuff to look at, a ton of places, whether they be antique malls or something along that line. Here's estate sales. There's 2 within that short little distance, 30 minutes or so from there. There's also public storage auctions in that same area. I found 2 or 3 of those. Now, this is all within, say, a 30-day time frame. So, if you add up all of the sources we've already looked at, there's quite a few. And these are just the ones that are paying to advertise on here. Most cities require a license or some sort of permit to run auctions. So if you're not sure what kind of auctions are in your area and they're not advertised, there's no local newspaper, you can also go down to the tax department where you'd have to buy a permit and ask if they'd have any idea if they could tell you how many permits or how many auction houses are in the area. That has worked as well too for me to find stuff that is off the beaten path. So again, we've got a dozen or more decent places to search, and I'm not even going into specifics on public storage auctions because most towns within, say, 30 minutes, again, no matter where you're at, will have storage unit auctions or abandoned stuff auctions or something along that line. County auctions are good. Going out of business auctions are good as well. And again, I'm not centering it on those right this minute here. We're just touching on the vintage and stuff that I mostly sell. So if I can't find stuff here in these areas that I'm looking at, and again, there's enough here to at least look at, I'm going to go outside the box and look even farther away. I'll look for public storage. I'll look for grocery stores for RA items because most stores have clearance items. I'll even go to Walmart's are good, Rite Aids, Walgreens. Eckerd's even can have some good items there. It just depends. So they're all good places to buy stuff. They're all places that I've personally bought stuff at, have turned that around and been able to actually make profits off of all of those stores I just mentioned. Walmart's very good. So, it doesn't have to be vintage. I do sell RA items. I do FBA. I do, direct merchant fulfilled as well. And then wholesale. We actually create our own artwork, as you see. I sell postcards weekly right now. So, I sell models, I sell toys, I sell like train set pieces, I'll paint figures, I'll cast things. I've made the magnets are very good to sell. So if you're in an area where there isn't stuff to source, which, there should be some place to source, no matter where you're at. There's businesses, they have to supply people with food and all these other items. So again, you can make your own items. You can make your specialty stuff. You can make stuff constantly. Again, it's going to be a slow start, just like any other business. Just like finding this stuff is going to take you some time to get into it. Make stuff, draw stuff, writing, whatever you can think of. I know somebody who writes resumes, so it's a ton of stuff you can do to supplement it. What I say is broadcast yourself out from many different sources of revenue for income. It doesn't all have to be reselling. You could do some artwork. You could advertise locally. You could put ads up on Craigslist in your area that you buy stuff. You could put ads up in the local newspapers or any of the free ones. Even in cities near you, say 30-minute drive, you can meet people places. So I do that and have done that in the past as well, too. So there's plenty of opportunities in most areas. Now, if you're in the middle of the desert somewhere, it might be a little harder. But West Virginia or any of the Appalachian Mountain areas, I've done fairly well. We have gone through there and sourced. We do stay in the foothills in the Columbus, Ohio area and farther down towards Kentucky border. So, I've stayed and went through that area. I've went through many states and all over this area. So there are sources. So I also looked up flea markets. There's quite a few actually in here, which I was actually surprised. There's 3 off of this just random search here that look like they're fairly decent. They're random, obvious typical thrift stores 30-40 minutes away. Again, I drive distances to get places, so you're just going to have to bite the bullet if you're out in the middle of nowhere and try and find other places to source. There's other people that do this business that are on the road 5-6 days a week just to find stuff to sell. Looking again here on Facebook, I actually found an antique flea market in the actual town of Hinton. And it looks like a decent one. They sell sodas and drinks, just a range of mixed items to look for in here. Not a huge place, but you add all these places up. You got to put together income. You get a source. You get one little source here that maybe makes you $20 a month or $20 a week. You add a second source that you can go to that makes you another $30 a week. You're up to 200 now. A third source that you can find $40 or $50 a week. As you add this up, you've got 3 sources now. You're getting hundreds of dollars now. This is how you do it. You expand out. You put ads in. You might have to go to auctions that are an hour away. It's going to be worth it if the auctions are good. Most patrons here, you've probably been to an auction at this point, I would honestly hope. And you can see that it's really worth it when you can buy a bunch of stuff in bulk, especially what we sell. I know a lot of people say it's hard to find what I sell. But honestly, it's at the end of cleanups. It's these contacts. It's constantly asking people about it. Eventually, they're going to run into it or say something or ask about it because they're going to be sick of you asking them. So, they know it's hot. They'll think it's hot. They may not even know it's you asking every time and just say, hey, we've got all these hot items people keep asking for. So, again, Facebook's a good place to look for. Craigslist, and I'm not doing a deep dig here on Facebook. I didn't pull up Craigslist, but I could almost guarantee you within, say, 30 or 40 minutes, you're going to find some items on Craigslist. You're going to find garage sales on Craigslist. It's just a given. Let's do that real quick here. Let's look up Craigslist real quick. Let's do Craigslist. And we're just going to look up Hinton. Let's just pick Morgantown. Just pick some random one here, and let's just see. Flea market. Let's just see what we find. There's a couple places, nothing big or spectacular. But again, this is just one place we are looking. In fact, this looks toys, action figures. This actually looks really good, actually, right there. There's a nice-looking flea market rummage sale right there. Again, I just picked someplace, so who knows what's there. Let's just type in postcards and just see what happens. There's actually a couple ads for postcards. Again, I just picked some town. Wherever I'm at, I'm able to find something, usually in the genre of stuff that I collect. So this is just some random search. So anyway, here's another one within the same driving distance as well. Here's another one on Hinton as well on Facebook. Again, this one looks like it's probably got a bunch of little knickknacks and things too. Again, I'm just picking some random places It's a small town. There's like less than 3,000 people in here. So for the size of town, there's actually quite a few things. Now here's thrift stores actually in the area as well too. And again, within say 30 to say 45 minutes, there's about 10 that I was able to find relatively easy. There's Salvation Army, the whole works. Again, I can't say we're any specific person what's around in your area, but this is the way to find them. This is what I do for every place. 10 best thrift stores near there. There's also 10 best antique stores. Again, there's some that are right out in the same area, in the same town as well. So several of these look very good that I would definitely go to no matter what. So again, it just depends on where you're at and what's available in your town. So anyway, that's just a rough start on what you do. It's just going to depend on what kind of places you find. I can't say what you're going to find in your area. There's no basics for a specific person or a specific area, in all honesty. I can't tell you. I can find where I live pretty much anything other than clothing. And if I really wanted to, I'm sure I could dig up some clothing, especially in the summer, going to garage sales and things like that. I'm just not interested in clothing. So, you know, I'm lucky enough where I have a good source for pretty much anything I want, so I can avoid selling some things. You know, if that's not you, buy whatever you can. It doesn't matter what you sell. Again, wholesale, RA items, Walmart's a good place. Most places have a Walmart within, say, 30 or 40 minutes. Eckerd's, the drugstores, department stores even sometimes in their clearance section you can find good items as well too. Dishes and things like that, pots and pans, TJ Maxx, Ross's, Burlington Coat Factory, those are all good sources too. Dirt Cheap, that's another good source as well too. So anyway, that's about it with basics on touching and finding places. But we're going to cut over now and we're going to show you repairing of the Santa Claus that I showed you in a couple videos ago. Okay, so here we are. We're going to actually fix this, as I said. So what I have here is some Strathmore paper, and I picked something that's acid-free to address this. Now, as you can see, it's got a really bad rip in it. Now, I was going to iron this out, but after thinking about this a little more, I did some tests with some thicker stuff like this. Usually, I don't iron out any of these thicker items like this one. For any other reason other than maybe repairing it. So I'm not going to actually do it on this one here. I'm just actually going to use some Elmer's school glue, just because this is water soluble, and if somebody later on wants to remove what I do, at least the paper wise, they can do that. I'm going to touch this up with some color too, which I'll show you when I'm done, to get rid of these lines you see here. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's going to be a line right there, and I'm going to fill that in. I'm also going to fill in this, and we're going to draw up just a brief generic little hand section for it too. So let's just get started here. We're going to actually cut up here. I've got the paper. We're just going to kind of guesstimate where we want to do it, and I'll just flip back to see how big. I would overshoot like a ½ inch, to say, in my opinion. That's usually what I do, ½ inch overshoot. So it doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to come back in at the end, and we're going to actually fix this up. We're just cutting this out. Doesn't have to be perfect. I do round off the edges, just force of habit. Looks a little better, I guess. So this is going to go on here. That's that patch there that we're going to do. We're going to leave it overhang a little bit. I'm going to do it right about there. And then at the end, we'll cut off whatever we don't need. Now, they're going to be able to tell. Anybody in their right mind is going to be able to know that we repaired this. But we're just going to list that it's repaired. There's nothing wrong with that. But the way it looks now, it's just not worth selling. It's with the hand and then this damage. But if we can at least improve the appearance, we could definitely sell this, as I said. Before we glue this on, we're going to do one more thing. We're going to actually draw that hole, because the hole itself is going to be an extra piece of paper so that the level is all proper. Now, it's a little hard to do to get it exactly, so we're just going to scribble right up to the edge. This is going to be the back side, so it won't matter so much. So we're just going to cut this piece out right there. Cut it around the best you can, as close to that as you can. We'll get to the hand, missing hand, in just a second here. I like to kind of glue it all up because we're going to have to set this and let it set for a couple hours for it to be dry. So now we've got the little piece that's going to replace it. It's not going to be perfect, but that's fine. So we're going to fill that in right there. Okay, so we're going to just go right into it. We've got that. I've got my little piece. And let's sit here and see what we're going to do for a hand. So we're just going to do a little long about way and just draw what we think we're going to get to the hand shape. We're also going to want to see where the rest of it goes. So we're going to draw the hand shape. We're going to draw a little extra. We're going to do it like about that. We're going to need 2 of these too, so let's just do this. We're going to double thickness this because one piece is going to have to be a little longer and one's just going to be the hand. So we've doubled this and we're going to cut this out now. This way the 2 layers we need will be fine. You can just get rid of some of this if it's in your way. Okay, we got it cut out. So we're just got 2 pieces here. We'll come back in and make sure we've got it the way we want it. And that we know which one. This one's going to go like this. Just about there. So we're also going to draw this. Okay, so we're going to cut off, so we've got 1 piece. What you want is you want one that's going to go on the back, and then you're going to have to fill in the front. You don't want to color on the same one that you're gluing on that way. It's just a better process to do this. So anyway, let's just make sure we mark where this piece is. So we can mark it. Put it down here and mark it. I got some plastic laying down here too, so just FYI. So we're pretty set to glue, so we're just going to go ahead and glue this. Hopefully glue it. Okay, now what I do is I rub my finger. I use my finger to do this. Always keep paper towels handy. And then we're going to use this. We're going to have to turn it back over. And we're going to try and line that up as best we can. And we're going to try to line this up here. Okay, so that's one repair. Don't worry about the little tiny piece you see sticking off there. We can cut that off at the end. No big deal on that one. Okay, so we'll save this part for last. In fact, that's the part we don't need. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this piece glued here. I've just got some weights we're going to put on this in just a second here. So just get some glue on there. It's always wise to put it on the piece you're gluing on because then you're not going to have over glue for the most part. We're going to put plastic on this before we put the books on it too, but still, let's just be safe. So we want to line that up there. We're going to turn it over so that I can see where my mark is down there. And we're going to obliterate the mark. Okay. I'm going to burnish that in with your finger. Do not use a tool to try and mash that together there. Okay. And while that's wet, we've got this little tiny piece which will seal the other side. This is the piece we're going to color in on. You can't color in on the glue side, obviously, so that's why that's that way. And then we're going to Get this last piece for the hand up there too. Okay, so let's get some more glue up there. And we're going to go ahead and just glue that up on there. Okay, so now we've got everything glued in place. We're going to go ahead and pat it down. Get as much extra glue off as we can. Now what I also do then at this point, before I put the weight on it, because we're done with the gluing part, this is going to set. I've taken my 5x7, the big postcard little sleeves that I mail things in, and I actually split the sides. I cut the sides off, and this one I actually cut the extra off so I could use that for that part. But what we're going to do then is we're just going to slide it in here just like this. That way glue doesn't get all over. And then for the top part, we're just going to sit here. In fact, I think we can glue a little edge up there too. Let's glue this edge. If you can see it splitting up there. For repairing it, we might as well just do it right. Get some stuff glue there. Probably had a little too much on that one, but that'll be fine. We're just going to mush it down with our hands. Okay, so now we've got everything glued. Now we're going to stick this piece just like that. Wipe off the excess there. We're going to stick the other one on there. So right now everything is encased over plastic, and then we're just going to throw some weight on this. That's all there is to it. In fact, let's do it this way. Let's get another book here. And then what I'm going to do for weight-wise, I just picked these. I'm going to put a bunch of actual records on it. We're going to dump some 78 records on here to even the weight out a little bit more. These are heavy. These should do the trick. And then we're going to come back in and we're going to take it off once it's been dried. And then I am going to show you how I fill it all in, clean it all up, and we're going to go from there as well too. Okay, so now we're back. It's actually dry. All I did was take the books off. We're going to pull the rest out. I use the plastic like this because literally there's nothing left. The glue doesn't stick to this at all. So if I need to press something, these plastic will take it where, look, it just comes right off. I've learned this over a long period of time. We're going to come in here. You can see that edge, and we're just going to sit there and carefully cut it off. Now, I wouldn't use a X-Acto blade to do this because you can actually cut too much off. There's a little divot there I could have repaired too. I don't think I'll mess with that one there. So now we've got a pretty good start for the actual finish of it here. Let me finish off this little divot up here that we were talking about. Happen to have a pencil here, so we're just going to try and draw in a rough hand. Nothing fancy here. Sometimes it's even hard for me to decide on how to draw it. Nothing fancy again. It doesn't have to be fancy. We're not trying to be an artist here. We're just trying to fill this in. So we're just going to fill it in. That's the thumb. Got the little finger there. And then we got another finger there. So all of this is going to be extra, basically. We'll come back in here since there is some blue, and I'm just going to blue it in there, and we're going to put blue right in through there. So now we're going to cut the rest of this off. Again, I'm not worried if it's a perfect hand. All you want is it to look okay. You don't want it to be 100% the way it was in my book. I want it to be a recreation of what it should be. At least that's my guess. We're just cutting off the excess actually now. Again, I always do it extra. I always put a little bit extra in there paper-wise. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's old, it's vintage, we're repairing it. We just want it to look decent and be displayable. So let me get back in focus there. Sorry, that's a little hard to get this done and still talk. Okay, so now we've got a hand. And we've got the fill-in. So what I do, let me back this up just a hair here for just a minute so you can kind of see some of the other aspects of what I do with this. Now, I have watercolors as well and things like that. This one I'm going to use watercolors. Sometimes I use actual ink. And I've got a huge assortment. This is just one of my drawers of colored pencils. In fact, let's bop out just a little bit more so we can talk about these. We'll zoom back in on the item in just a second here. So we've got the pencils here. I had to flip the green screen off, so you have to excuse me. But these are solid lead. So the lead goes all the way to the actual edge of the pencil. And these are used for special things. I've got a ton of pencils that I use. And what we're going to use for today, I have some watercolor pencils. Now, it depends on the item that you're using. This is just another layout of pencils. I've got pastel pencils. These are a base of watercolor as well. And these are Rexel Derwent. These are British ones here. These are watercolor pencils that I use. Let's get it in close so you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. Let me put my hand up on there. There you go. That's what I'm going to use today. Now, as I said, I can use ink on some of these. Sometimes I'll use these, which are pastels. Let me get it up close again so we can see it. Sometimes I'll use these. These are pastels. It just depends on what mood I am in and what's the base is too. So, and I've got many different kinds of pencils. So I'm just going to set these aside. Now, with the watercolor pencils, I can come in and just grab a specific color. We're going to use a couple colors here. I've got a little bit of water, and I've got some brushes here. I'll show you my brushes. This is an old brush pencil stand from like the 40s that I've used for years. These are just my working brushes for repairs. All the stuff you see here is what I use for repair. But let's just pick a small brush here. We're going to use a little bit of red and get the right red too. So we're going to come back in here and we're going to fill this in the best we can. Now we don't want to mix up his boot there. We're going to just come across. Let me zoom back down here so we can see what we're doing a little better. Okay, so now we're just filling this in down there. In fact, let's zoom down a little closer here. So we're just going to, again, just color this in. That's all we're doing. We're going to go right up to the edge. Again, this is repaired, so it's not going to matter as much. And we're going to go over this crack here, too, best we can. And that's not going to be quite dark enough, so we've got another color that we are going to actually go over the top with. Let's find a dark brown. We're going to do a little bit of a brown. And the end result is that hopefully it won't be very visible at all, the damage. Okay, so far so good. Let's see if you can see how well you can see that. It's getting better. We're going to get to it. It's just going to take some time to sit here and play with it. Let's get some green in there too and get rid of the green color. Okay, it's not going to be perfect. Don't care if it's perfect. I just want it to look better. Let's go ahead and get a brush too that I got, because again, this is watercolors, so I can come in here and get it a little bit wet. And that'll help blend it. I can get a little use the water that we got here for right there. We're going to come back in here and just come right in. So it's just a matter of, and hopefully you can see the difference now. In all honesty, it's getting harder and harder to see. Let's go ahead and fill in some of the base here too. The brown we have on that looks more like this one here. So we're just going to, nope, that's not it. And you can do two different colors, one over another one if you need to. So we're going to do a little lighter one here. And we'll go back over this. We're going to fix up the actual letters too. In fact, we need a darker color for the letters. Actually, this might work. Let's sharpen this pencil up here too. Okay, so that's about it. I'm going to leave it at that. Not perfect, just a rendition of a hand, so hopefully you can see it. Now I could actually sell this, so that's the key to fixing these. The only other thing I'm going to do is spray it. If for some reason it's got a little ripple to it, which it does have a tiny ripple to it now, I'll just be able to actually put this in one of my presses for a day or two, and that'll be it. I would expect with it being repaired like this, I'll probably get, say, 45 bucks to, say, maybe 50 at the most. If it was original with no damage, you're probably talking about, say, 75 to, say, 110-ish. If I wouldn't have repaired it at all, I'd have probably been lucky to get 5 bucks. So for maybe 20 minutes worth of my time, I've added on about 45 bucks onto the value of this. Once it's sprayed, it'll all be uniform as well too. So again, that's the only step that I am missing out of here. Let me see if I've got the cans here. This is a Mod Podge, which is what I use. It's a clear matte finish, so it basically leaves nothing on it. So it'll just look like I didn't spray it for the most of it. Now, some of these I have different varieties. I've got a semi-gloss and a gloss. Mod Podge works the best. You can actually use it for glue and all kinds of other things. But that's what I use for this. You know, I buy it by the case, believe it or not, because I use it for art and things along that line as well, too. When I seal my postcards, after I do the artwork, like a sketch on my postcards, I actually use Mod Podge to seal the pencil work too. So anyway, that's what we have for you today. Hopefully you can see the drastic change that this has done. If you didn't know it was repaired, it would take you a minute to be able to actually notice that it was repaired. Well, there you go. That's what I have for you today. Hopefully that was helpful and gave you some ideas. I've got another bolo coming out. The next one's going to be a bolo. It's going to be a random mix of stuff. I'm going to wait to put out another stamp one so I can bust it up a little bit here so you've got a little different odds of things to find. I'll try to make it some more broad range of items to look for. I'll give you like a top 20 categories or something along that line with specifics. Something along that line I will put together for you the next one. As usual, make any comments or anything that you want. If you have any questions, you can email them to me. On the community tab, you're welcome to put photos up of items that you need identified or anything like that. I very rarely check Facebook now compared to how I used to, just because I don't have time. It's been a good week, in all honesty, since I've been on Facebook. I know, bad me, I'm not a big social media person. This is a little different because this is content, and I do love talking and doing the content. And again, I'm answering every one of your questions here no matter what. So within hopefully 2 days at the latest, unless something comes up or something. Family does come first, as I say, for everybody, of course. So anyway, that's what I got for you again. And again, I do honestly appreciate all the support I get from everybody. It literally makes this all possible. It wouldn't be possible for me to keep putting out videos and doing things because of the time that it takes me. I'm doing more so now than I have before. So, you know, I'm spreading myself thinner out there. So again, I do appreciate this more than you will know.